Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So, Bernie is back on the job. Now, granted, Bernie never left the job, per se. A few days ago, he gave a speech to Nissan. He was with the workers. They were trying to organize for a union. It's an interesting video, and I kind of want to make a point about the video itself. You would find me sometimes, I don't want to say losing my shit about something Sanders is doing. It's not about Sanders. In fact, it's never about Sanders in this case. It's more so about what Sanders is doing, not so much about what Sanders is. For the most part, I agree with what he is. I just want him to be productive. When Sanders is doing something, if he's advocating a position, I always ask the question of, are you going to be able to articulate the position that you're advocating? Meaning, can you get that position accomplished going the route that you're going? I just greatly disagree he's going to get any of that stuff accomplished through the Democratic Party. But I do want him to get that stuff accomplished. So if I'm criticizing him, I'm criticizing him because of that reason. I want him to get accomplished. And the way he's going about it is not doing it. But that has nothing to do with what he's advocating in that sense. And I agree with him. Let's take a look at the video. I kind of want to make a comment on this.
When workers have a union, when they can negotiate a decent contract, on average, wages for union workers are 27% higher than for non-union workers. Sounds like a pretty good deal to me.
That they have to do better by our workers. It's time for the workers to have a choice for them to decide whether they want representation or not, without retaliation, without intimidation, without threats, without harassment.
I believe they do not recognize us because this is considered a slave state. We're not considered to be substantial as the other workers in the other 42 plants. But we understand that we turn out more vehicles than the rest of the plants.
In other states,
It's not your race, dude. It's not. I promise you, it's not your race. I'll talk about it after.
workers get paid more than they do here in the state of Mississippi. The state of Mississippi branch actually puts out more types of cars than any other branch in the nation.
Mississippi is critical to the question of human rights and the question of workers' rights. Mississippi is a place which has long been known for the suppression of labor.
If they can negotiate with unions in 42 out of 45 of their plants all over the bloody world, you know what? They can negotiate here in Mississippi.
Worker got Chris fingers cut off and a couple of times before people have died on the line, and they will pull you out the way and turn the line right back on.
Our workers are not disposables, they're not tissues that you just use about to throw them away.
I believe that they see this as a model. If they can get away with it here, then they can spray it. And so we're really fighting not just for Mississippi, but for the nation, and even for the world.
What Nissan understands, what many of your state elected officials understand who are siding with Nissan, is that their preference is that Nissan continue to make huge profits, Nissan continue to pay its CEO $9 million a year, but somehow Nissan is unable to provide decent wages and decent working conditions here in Camden, Mississippi.
It would mean better benefits. It would mean that we would be able to send our children to school.
Oh man, it would be a dramatic change. We would have the medical benefit that we need. We would have the money that we need. We have kids that's got to go to school, got to go to college, but we don't have that. We work 6 days and make less money.
They need security, they need retirement, they need good health care, human rights, civil rights, and the same as workers' rights.
It would mean that workers can be treated with dignity and respect.
Their daily life would totally change. They would not be scared anymore because they would know that they would have somebody that would grieve a grievance for them if they were treated unjustly.
Throughout this country, people are saying, what is going on? Why do I have to work 2 or 3 jobs? And in the last 20 years, we've seen a proliferation of billionaires. Maybe it is time for justice for working people.
I love the picture of King right there. I really do. Understand, a lot of people think that King was just a civil rights icon. King went beyond civil rights. A lot of those people sanitize his image. They make him look like, this guy who's a dreamer and all this other stuff. King was a socialist for the most part. His main thought was that economic justice or any kind of civil rights will require some level of economic justice associated with it. How can you be free if you don't have the money to be free? It's a capitalistic society. So yeah, I love that. Look, these people are right. The only thing these people are essentially asking for is fairness. We want a fair wage. They make several really good points, saying we put out more cars, we do all of this stuff, and we don't have decent working conditions, we don't have a union, we don't have the ability to bargain for our wages. Sanders makes another good point. Wages have people who have unions 20% higher in wages. All of that's true. All of that's right. It's not their race. It's the job itself, if that makes sense. Like, you gotta understand, and I understand why they're thinking race. Mississippi was a slave state, for the most part. But if you think about how they were able to gain all that money from slavery, per se, essentially you had people working for free. Those people who were working for free could create wealth without necessarily having to give that wealth to the people who were making that particular living. Right off the bat, the less you have to pay the people who are working for you, the more money you can make for yourself. Productivity has spiked by like over 100% over the past 20, 30 years. Wages haven't budged. The money from that productivity was sucked up to the top 1%. That's essentially what happened. That's how those guys can pay themselves $9 million while these workers get squat. The question becomes, how do you solve that? Like I understand what Sanders is saying, but Sanders makes this case that a lot of progressives make, and they don't necessarily go further than that. Unions have been decimated. I mean, all across the United States. So what is your goal? Is your goal to try to add more unions? Is your job to pass something that would allow unions to organize faster, organize more? Or what's the point of the unions in the first place? I mean, the main goal or the main reason for unions is to allow employees to bargain. To say, as a collective, we're going to get together and we're going to make determinations on wages and rights. And we're going to give ourselves additional benefits that we think are fair based upon the money and the profits that this particular company is reaping off of our labor. That's a worthy cause. Can you do that process better, as opposed to having to go along with the idea of unions? The answer to that question is yes. Get rid of management. Get rid of management. You don't need them. Have worker co-ops. If Sanders was working in a government thing, so let's say Sanders was elected, Sanders could do a few things. Sanders could try to push for legislation to make it easier to form unions. That's perfectly fine. But if it was me, I would actually push for worker co-ops. I would try to get a situation where the workers themselves are running the business. You don't need a CEO. You don't need all that other stuff. The workers themselves can make the determination on what takes place in that particular company. You don't necessarily need a union in that scenario, because who are you bargaining with? The workers themselves are the people who are running that company. The workers themselves, there's nobody else to bargain with. There are no elites in that company. Everybody in that company, for the most part, is that company. The workers are making a determination on how they're going to get their production, what they're going to pay the people who work with them. The people who they're paying are just them. Yeah, there may be some people who are making a bit more, but you're not going to have these disparities in pay where somebody is making $12 trillion or $9 million and somebody else is barely making minimum wage. That eliminates that issue completely. You're still going to have issues in the sense of climate. You're still going to have issues of industrial stuff like waste and all that other stuff. But on the basic issue of income inequality, on the basic issue of increasing wages, fairness for the workers, preventing the shipping of jobs overseas. Are you really going to ship your job overseas if you yourself, meaning your workers, are part of that organization that's part of making the choices for that particular company? Are you going to ship your own job abroad? Are you? Are you going to really fire Bob if you and Bob are, for the most part, working side by side? No. At that point, the job itself is not purely about the acquisition of profit. Understand, the company in the format that we have right now allows people at the top, for the most part, to make all decisions that don't fully affect them. If they decide to get rid of 1,000 people, that's horrible, that's sad, that's not affecting their salary. It is going to affect the salaries of people who are working for them. If you, yourself, as a worker, has part of a democratic elected office, the decisions that you make as a collective in that office are probably going to be fairer in general. All of the choices are not falling upon the bottom part of that particular organization. The organization itself makes the choices in a collective fashion. So these people are right. What they want is perfectly right. The unions that are there should be supported. But let's go beyond that. I mean, I'm just sick of having this, it's like it's always the same conversation. It's okay, we're going to raise taxes, we're going to pass this regulation, we're going to pass that regulation, we're going to push this union. That's great. Let's go beyond it. Let's go beyond it. Let's get to the problem. Let's get to the actual problems. The unions are fine. These people should unionize. Nishan should not stand in their way. I love the fact that Sanders is out there helping them. I'm pretty sure Hillary Clinton is going to show up on the union line at some point. I'm pretty sure Obama isn't going to be out there helping those guys out. It's not going to happen. I just want Sanders to go further. That's all. Worker co-ops is an awesome idea in this regard. It's an awesome idea. But he's right. He's right. People are getting screwed. They're getting screwed royally. And up to this point, unions have been the bulwark against those people who are being screwed. It's just, I guess my feeling is, unions have been decimated over the past 20, 30 years. Republicans have made a concerted effort to destroy those institutions. Democrats have made a concerted effort of not doing anything about it. So, understand the situation that as it presents itself. You have one party, the Democratic Party, the party that, unfortunately, Sanders caucuses with, stand aside as they decimate unions, obliterate them. I mean, literally destroy one union after next, passing all these right-to-work laws. They had absolute power when they went into government, the Democrats. They didn't pass the legislation that would allow creation of unions all throughout the country. They didn't pass it. Obama had the power to do it. He didn't do it. He didn't touch that legislation. So yes, you can be mad at Republicans for bashing unions, but if you're going to be fair and consistent, you also have to be mad at Democrats for not doing anything to help them. Being neutral is not the same thing as being helpful. Those are different things. But my point in all of this is worker co-ops. Worker co-ops. Worker co-ops. So I'll leave it on this. Thanks, guys.